I appreciate you meeting with me. I think about the quote about success leaves clues,
Yes.
And I'm really big on being able to study people's path.
Correct.
Because I believe every person that's successful lays out a blueprint. You know what I'm saying? Everybody. So it's important to, take time to look at people. Now, the challenge is that we never want to compare ourselves with other people, because comparisons leads to depression, leads to, because I believe that, we each have our own unique purpose. You know what I'm saying? So there's no need to compare. But in terms of observing people's lives, that's so very, 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 very important, and everything. And so, has that ever been an issue with you? It seems like there's a thin line between studying somebody's success and, learning from their path, and crossing the line into actual envy and jealousy and comparisons and feeling insecure. Has that ever been an issue?
Yeah, so for me, it absolutely has. Far less in my adult life, but it's important to go back to my teenage years. This was actually a huge thing for me. As you and I have spoken about previously, I was overweight as a teen, which and as a young person as well, really overweight. So what that led to was some issues with self-esteem within myself, and so I wasn't happy with me per se. And not only that, but I had these goals and dreams that no one in my immediate circle, in my immediate life, they were things that they hadn't accomplished either. So I actually looked to, it's crazy, but I looked to movies and characters in movies to kind of help me find the way. And I would watch these movies over and over again to emulate these characters. It began with the show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So I would study that character. You know what I mean? And Will Smith became my personality, or my personality was what I saw on the TV screen. Some of his other movies, whether it was Hitch, if you've seen the movie Hitch, Bad Boys, you might not have seen Bad Boys, there's cursing in it, okay. Bad Boys, Troy, with Achilles is character in Troy. So my point is that I took, because I wasn't certain and sure within myself, I took what I learned from these characters and molded myself around what I saw from them, which really prevented me from ever being, at that point in my life, prevented me from being me in that regard.
Okay, very good, very good. Awesome, man. This is great. Well, so here's the thing. So basically, that's my main motivation for this conversation, is being able to just share with you some of my pieces of my mindset, and to get feedback from you regarding that, because it's been a struggle regarding insecurities, and what's interesting is that I use my personal insecurities to fuel my motivational presentations, right? And so, and some people feel as though maybe at times I'm being too transparent, but I believe that one of my missions in life is to promote transparency, because I really see how the power of transparency can make a huge difference in a person's life. Because when we are very transparent about our struggles, it shows other people that struggle with similar issues that they're not alone and that there is hope. And so I'm very transparent about my issues, except for maybe certain things that I feel that might make people feel unsafe or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there are some issues that, but in general though, I'm very transparent. So I have a lot to cover. I want to get feedback from you regarding certain perspectives that I have about life, and I'm very intrigued by your journey, and all that, and just want to see your mind. So number one is this question for you about motivational speaking. To be honest with you, I have very selfish motives when doing these motivational presentations at schools because, and I say selfish motives because it's like the love that I experience at the schools when I'm going out to the schools and giving these motivation, giving encouragement, and how, you know, with many of them, I won't say all, right? Because, you know, I feel like you never really get 100%. There's always maybe at least a few people that look at it and be like, oh, I already heard all this stuff before, or, you know, this was a little cheesy or whatever. But then, you know, there's always that population of kids that really relate to your experience and really respond and just really are you know, and even in some that lives are even changed, you know. And so I feel that sense of love, and I realize that it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of selfish. But the thing is, though, is that I guess it goes to the point of how whenever we give, we always get back more. Absolutely. Whatever we give to others comes back to us multiplied. And so it's interesting looking at stuff like volunteering and investing in the lives of youth, and looking at it as, okay, you know, that's a good thing to do, but in a way, it is selfish, but it's a good selfishness, you know what I'm saying? To be able to derive pleasure from giving, you know? Is that something that you feel as well?
I do. You know, any and every moment that I have an opportunity to take an audience with student athletes, with regular teens, with adults, with parents, it is imperative to me to go into those moments and to leave it as a better situation than it was when I initially walked in the door. I mean, I care about kids with all of my heart. I care about youth. I care about people really, but youth as a whole. So to be able to walk into these doors and to be able to, again, speak to a kid and to hope that in some way, maybe something that I said, an experience that I had, help to move them forward is really what it is that I hope to do in life.
And you know, with my situation, I don't have any kids of my own, right? And I think that situation actually fuels more of my motivation to reach out to the kids, because I feel as though these kids are my kids, and the way that some of them respond to me with gratitude, and it's kind of like a father figure role, you know. So in your situation, I know that you don't have any kids either. No. Do you feel that? Do you feel like the fact that you don't have kids might actually push you more into investing in the lives of you young people?
Absolutely. I don't. I believe that we get. I believe that we get into a bit of an issue when we begin to say father figure role, because the truth is that, I mean, being a father means a lot. I hope to be a father one day, and to be a father means being there every single day, every moment of the day. So what we can't do is get confused that what we do, albeit wonderfully good, in an hour or in a day, is not a father figure. A father means a lot more. Now, to the point of the question that you asked, I absolutely do. You know what I mean? Because it is, as we said, being a father takes so much. So not having children of our own, it allows for us to give so much of ourselves to all the rest of these youth, to all of the rest of the people that we're attempting to give of ourselves to. We have a cup, bro. We all have a cup. We all got a cup. So without having, you know, the rest of it to give to our own children, we can give a little bit more to the world.
Powerful. Now, here's the thing, you know, as you know, as I said, a lot of my motivational efforts come from the fact that my personal insecurities, right, and everything. And I feel as though, you know, I think that our glitch can be our gift, meaning that, you know, the things that we struggle with can actually be the things that we can help other people with. Now, I know some people will say that, well, first you have to be able to be an expert at something before you can, you know, have the credibility to talk to other people about it. But I do believe that even as we're in the midst of struggling and overcoming something, we can still reach out and help others who are struggling with the same thing. And in fact, a lot of times they might relate more to us than to someone who is further along ahead in the process, someone who has already kind of overcome the issue and now is sharing insights, which is also valuable. But I just think that it also valuable. So what I'm saying is that, you know, like, I had this 20-year high school reunion come up, and I didn't go because I got nervous and everything. So here's the thing about me. I love performing.
Sure.
I love having a script. I love being able to perform. But it's like when I don't have a script, that's when I can feel a little bit lost, out of place. And I mean, it goes deeper into, it might actually be some type of like psychological thing. Like, for example, okay, so when I'm in a social setting and there's no script and we're talking, like let's say you go to a social event and there's different people talking. If we're talking, one of the struggles for me is like feeling insecure about how to end the conversation and move on to somebody else. Because I feel as though if I end the conversation too soon, I feel as though I'm being rude. If I don't end the conversation and let it drag on, then I feel like I'm being annoying. Now, of course, I'm putting all the responsibility on myself, not realizing that also they also can participate in like but I just feel as though, I don't know what it is, it's just something that I feel just kind of lost about it. And I'm just wondering, I mean, have you ever experienced any of that? Or, I mean, it might be something that you might, you know.
Listen, man, I believe that social anxiety is real. Social anxiety is very real, and it exists in all of us. It exists in me. I mean, I'm a really confident at this point in life. I'm a confident individual. I believe in myself. I know my worth, but that doesn't mean that many of those social anxiety, those fears of human interaction at initial takes, that doesn't exist, because it does. I mean, I feel a form of fear every time I do something that I'm not completely familiar with. But I do. I believe that for you in specific, I believe that it's important for you to attempt to step by step get away from being so scripted, because that's going to hurt you. Because life, you can't write a script to life, bro.
True.
You can't write a script. The most important moments in life, you can't write a script to them.
True.
You know, they're going to happen, and then you got to react and you got to respond. And I think the beauty of it is whether your response and reaction is amazing or whether it could have gotten better, they're both fine.
True.
They're both fine.
True.
Because we move forward and we do it again, bro.
Yes.
And we learn from it.
Yeah. And as long as we've done our best, we've won, right? As long as we do our best.
I mean, yeah, but again, like even in that, we're taking it too far. Like we're just talking about a conversation right now. Like that's not a win and loss situation. But when you put that much pressure on everything, then it becomes a win and loss thing.
Gotcha. I'm overthinking, maybe.
You're overthinking, bro. We're just having a conversation. Like right now. The best part of this right now is right now. When we're just having a conversation.
Yeah. I got you. Now here's the thing. Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Correct.
He talks about how, look.
One time Gary V tweeted at me and it made my whole life. It did. It was awesome. He tweeted at my homeboy. He tweeted at Josh. Shout out Josh. Go.
Okay, but he's part of your camp. I got you. The TV show.
Huge Gary V fan.
I got you. So here's the thing. Gary V says, hey, look, audit yourself. Sure. He says, audit yourself. Notice your strengths. Notice your weaknesses. Absolutely. And he's like, hey, go all in on your strengths. Of course, you want to mitigate your weaknesses, right? You definitely want to heal from, certain issues you got going on. But Gary is like, hey, look, go all in on your strengths, because you're going to go much further in life if you focus more on your strengths rather than trying to fix your weaknesses. So now, applying that to myself, okay, I got this social anxiety thing. Okay, so I definitely want to invest some time I can read books about, people skills, I can grow, I can maybe seek counseling, all that kind of stuff, having conversations with people like yourself, people that have really gained a lot of success with socializing and all that. I can do all of that, but at the same time, I want to make sure that most of my energy is on my strengths. And I think that for me, one of my strengths is planning, is organizing, is having a vision, having discipline, having steps, writing. I feel like I'm a better writer sometimes than I am as other things. I feel like writing is great. So digging deep into that. So what's your thoughts about that? Having that balance of like, okay, yeah, we don't want to ignore our weaknesses, but we don't want to spend too much time on our weaknesses.
Yeah, one of the major points that I just want to completely point out is that I am obviously not a trained psychologist or any of the above, not a trained therapist in any regard. So, so it's not my place to psychoanalyze you. I can speak to my own life. And in my own life, I believe in, one of the characteristics that we are taught from a very early age is the importance of being well-rounded. Be well-rounded, be well-rounded. If you look at the greats, though, the true greats, very few of them are well-rounded. They're sharp, meaning that they find what it is that they're great at, and then that's where they go. But it's important early to be early it's important to be well-rounded, because you never know when you might need these skills. Because there's kids out there right now that are saying, okay, well, Chad Ricardo said that I don't need math because I don't like it. I'm not gonna need. No, you know what? You probably will, because there will come a time in life in which you need the basics of that. There will come a time in life in which you need the basics of history, in which you need the basics of writing, no matter what it is you want to be. So you want to be well-rounded to begin with, but then to get to your overriding point, I agree with Gary that we should focus. I agree with you, Gary, that we should focus on our strengths, but it is important that some of the things that hold us back, that we address them and that we understand them. I've always had just wild ambitions. I've always known exactly what it is that I wanted to do. I always knew that I had, the skills and the tools in order to get there. But it wasn't until I actually identified the things that were holding me back. You knew me when I was younger. I was very into nightlife. Very into nightlife. But my forays into nightlife, just those small steps back, were what was preventing the rest of me from moving forward. So if I didn't address that and I continued moving forward, then even if I would have gotten further, my weaknesses would have eventually pulled me back.
Good point.
My weaknesses would have eventually pulled me back. So I agree, focus on your strengths, but we have to understand.
Sure. Good point. Now, here's the thing. Legacy is huge for me. Legacy is really huge for me. Especially, and it's interesting how a lot of my passion about legacy fuels from insecurities, personal insecurities, being socially rejected because I had a little bit of a stutter problem. Even still now, sometimes when it's interesting, when I'm on the phone sometimes with some of these company owners, sometimes I can stumble, I can stutter a little bit, but when I'm doing my motivational presentation, it's scripted, I feel, comfortable and everything, it doesn't come up, but it's interesting about that. But here's the thing though, is that, and even still, like talking to girls,
that's because it's not real, bro.
And everything.
The reason why you don't stumble in your motive is because it's not real. Because it's scripted.
Very scripted.
You see what I'm saying?
Practice.
So again, if you only focus on that, you won't get better.
True.
In your one-to-one interactions.
Good point.
Real.
Yeah. So that's good. So I'm going to develop. I'm definitely going to pay attention and on that, and have that good balance. But always focusing, as we said, focus more though on our strengths. But here's the thing: is that because I've dealt with a lot of like social rejection and stuff in the past, I think that also has kind of fueled me to have an increased desire to have an impact on people, And so here's the thing about legacy, one of the things I want to do, man, in terms of like, so financial is my background, I was a CPA
Sure.
and all that, but here's one of the things that I realized, man, is that young people need to start investing early. Young people need to manage their money better.
Totally.
And here's the thing. So you and I, we both have a lot of young people in our sphere of influence, right? Now I know personal finance is a very personal thing. I would never pressure someone. I'll never force my advice. But I do want to be open to people who are open to receiving my advice,
Sure.
to giving them my advice. And so here's the thing, man. These party motivators especially, right? A lot of them are college students. And I'm like, look, if you're making, some of them maybe between $300 to $600 a month maybe, they're college students, I want to motivate them to take a little bit of that money and start investing it. I mean, because it's just the power of compound interest, man. If you're 20 years old, man, and if you were to just invest like $100 a month into a mutual fund. I know that you used to work for a mutual fund company, so you kind of understand how mutual funds work and everything, and how, stock market goes up and down, but over the long term, 10, 15, 20 years, it goes up. It always goes up. And so these young people, they can set aside some cash to start investing. And if I can successfully, I got some of my party motivators are in the process of doing that. I'm not pressuring them, but here's the thing, man, is that for me, I believe that, those that are taking my advice and doing it 40 years from now, when they're like, 60, you know what I'm saying? Or even when they're at 50, and 50 is young, they're going to look back and they're going to see, wow, I'm so glad I listened to Lance. How do you feel about that, about young people investing early, and we maybe taking a more proactive approach in reaching out and to encourage people to invest early in their retirement and stuff,
So I work with student athletes a ton. A ton of the student athletes that I work with do not come from situations in which investing and in which maybe managing their money is at the absolute top of the, because for a lot of individuals, albeit the student athletes I work with, for a lot of people in the United States, we don't have money to invest. We barely have enough money to eat. I've been there myself a lot in life. I just had enough money to pay the bills. So it's imperative to be able to build this trust with an individual. It's amazing once you show someone that you care, not just say you care, but once you show someone that you care, which can be really difficult when you have a script with everything in front of you. So once you can show someone that you care and they believe that, then they'll listen to you much more, and then your influence, which therefore leads to your legacy, can be a lot stronger. Because your legacy, bro, it's not about you. You just made the statement. I want them to look back and say, Lance, it doesn't. I don't care. The people that I work with, I don't care if they look back and say, Chad helped. All I want for them to do is to be helped.
True.
Who gets the credit for it?
True.
It's totally
good point.
Totally not my concern.
No, I totally, and just to clarify that, to clarify that is that, and honestly, I'm a very spiritual person, you know what I'm saying, or I value spirituality. Look, I have a lot of imperfections, so maybe saying I'm a spiritual person might not be totally correct, because I have a lot of imperfections. I stumble just like everybody else, but I guess I'm passionate about growing in my spirituality, is what I should say. So here's the thing, is that, no, definitely though, my thing is, I want to be an instrument of God's grace. I see it as me being an instrument of God's grace, and being someone looking back and saying, not necessarily as a pride thing, saying that, oh, Lance helped me out, but to say that, wow, you know what, God used Lance as a vehicle to help me, you know what I'm saying, everything. And then speaking of that, I look at it kind of like the story of the talents in the Bible. Are you familiar with the talent story in the Bible? It's a parable that Jesus told where there was an owner, and he had 3 servants, and he gave one servant 5 talents, he gave another servant 3 talents, and he gave another servant 1 talent. The one servant that received the 5 talents doubled it and had 10. The one that received 3 talents doubled it and had 6. But the one that was given 1 talent, he was afraid, and he just buried his talent. He didn't do anything with it, right? And so when the owner came back, he praised the 5 talent guy who doubled it, and he praised the 3 talent guy who doubled it. But the one that he gave that 1 talent to that did nothing to it, he like cursed him, right? And so the point of the story is, and the 1 talent guy, he was afraid because he felt like he didn't have enough. He was perhaps comparing himself to the guy that had 5 talents. You know, he was like, man, he has 5 times as much that I have. The guy that has 3 talents, he has 3 times as much. He was afraid, he didn't do anything. And the message, one of the messages of the story is, even if you feel like you only have a little bit compared to what other people have, use what you have, work with what you have, and you'll find that if you work with what you have, you will find that you have much more than you think you have, and how God can, take our efforts, and God can bless our efforts, and it can really multiply. And so I feel like, to whom, there's a saying, right? There's a quote in the Bible that says, to whom much is given, much is required, where we have a responsibility. So if we have a responsibility to take the resources that we've been given and to use that to help others, And so the stuff with the finances and the stuff even with like the physical fitness and the motivation and stuff, mental health, I want to take everything that I have in terms of the career and stuff, and I want to give that to other people without pressuring them or forcing it on them, you know what I'm saying? And everything, and I just feel like I just want to kind of just multiply those resources like that. In terms of that, so you're an entrepreneur, you have several different income streams of income, and it looks like you have done something that I'm very passionate about as well. You've taken everything that you're very passionate about and turned that into a stream of income. So like even your physical fitness, you had a personal training business, and then the sports casting thing, that's a stream, and then the mitzvah stuff and all that kind of stuff that you're doing. So they're saying that there's a statistic that says that the average millionaire has at least 7 streams of income. Is that one of your focuses, to take everything that you're passionate about and turn it into a stream of income?
So it's a great question. Mm-hmm. It's a great question. Streams of income are extraordinarily important. It's extraordinarily important, and I do believe that I have nieces and nephews. Again, I don't have any of my own children, but I have nieces and nephews, and of course, a following of my own. So creating streams of income is something that I would teach to them. Before you can get to that point, though, I think that you touched on the key, which is that I now do things that I'm passionate about. You see, I had for the previous 5 years before right now, for the previous 5 years, I probably made less money than I made the 5 years before that, and I've been working in my passion. When we chase the money aspect of things, we make decisions that actually oftentimes take us away from our passions. If we keep in mind what it is that we're truly here for, then, and it's so cliche, but if we keep in mind what we're truly here for, and we do that, the money will come as a result of it. You see what I'm saying? The money will come as a result of it. So as you begin to speak about, well, I'm a this, I'm a that, I work in the mitzvah industry. I'm not just an MC. I work really hard to be one of, if not the best MC out here. I work in the sports industry. I'm not just a sportscaster. I work really hard to be the best at what it is that I do. But when I work really hard to make a difference in those industries. The profession, what you do, will never get you there. It's why you do it. Why you do it, why you're passionate about it, and how you go about it. No matter what I do, I never lose sight of the people that are involved in it. So it's in not losing sight of the people, that's what allows for me to create different streams of income and what allows for me to be successful, because I don't lose sight of why I'm doing what I do, not what I do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is it do you feel like it's a spiritual calling? Like do you feel
Absolutely.
like God has planted these certain purposes in your life, or certain desires in your life, and you feel like
I am a spiritual being. I'm not a religious man, but I am a spiritual being, and I fully believe that the things that I'm doing now are what it is that I was put here to do. And and there's different vehicles. Again, we spoke previously about the whole bait and switch of athletics. I love sports. I played sports, played college football, yada yada yada. But to be able to use that vehicle to be able to have an effect, to have a moment in the life of kids, that is what matters to me. To be able to host a mitzvah and to throw a great party, but the important portion of that is to be able to touch the lives of a family that will remember that moment for the rest of their lives. You see what I'm saying? Everything that I do, I never lose sight of the fact that to someone, every time I hold a microphone, to someone, this is the most important moment of their day, of their year, potentially of their life. So the more that I can keep that in mind, the more successful it is. It's bigger than just the event itself.
True. And perhaps in every event, perhaps there's at least one person who is silently suffering, and the energy, the enjoyment that we bring to them could be used by God to actually help in their healing process. Because they say, we all are struggling with something.
Sure.
Some of us are struggling with battles that are more severe than others, of course, right? And some of us have flaws that are more visible than others.
Absolutely.
But it's amazing how what we do, we will never really understand the impact that our actions are having on others. So, wow. So does that really excite you? That really excites you?
So I work with an organization, Football University, All-American Games, and I just got back from South Carolina, in which we were there for a week, and just tons, 700 student athletes and their families, so a ton of individuals. And I was after camp one day. I was sitting outside of the hotel, and I had a teen walk up to me, and he asked if he could take a picture with me, and he was like, "Chad, you're my idol." And to hear that from a 14-year-old young man, to hear that, "Chad, you're my idol," a young man of color, because especially, for anyone, that means a lot. But for a young man of color who so many of us don't have all of the role models that we need. We don't have a lot of the structures that we need. So to be able to go out and to be an example, even if that's for one, but to go out and to be able to be an example and to serve as a light for these young men we go back again to the previous question. That's what I'm here for, bro. It doesn't matter how high my career, though it doesn't matter. So that's why I go back to the titles. It doesn't matter what the title is, because to serve as an example, and to let somebody else know that you can do this. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Now you mentioned you're a spiritual person, so what does that really mean? So in your situation, right? Do you believe in God? Do you pray? How do you practice your spirituality?
I was raised in a Baptist church. I was baptized probably at the age of 16. I went to church every day. I thought that it was absolutely wonderful. I was a Christian during college. Went to church then as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you might not have been really practicing it. I mean, when we say Christian or we say spirituality, I mean, there's the religion. So So you were religious because you were going through the religious practices, but the spirituality, is more genuine. It's about the relationship with God and everything.
It's a relationship with whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and in your case, in my case, it's our relationship with that higher power, right? God. So here's what I'm getting at. Here's the context: is that so I'm very passionate about growing in my spirituality. Very passionate about my development and everything, and the whole thing about legacy and calling. I mean, about purpose. I believe that part of my spiritual calling is to encourage other people to connect with God, and I don't mean encouraging them to join a particular church or be religious, quote unquote religious, and then go through the religious practices, but something deeper. I feel like one of my spiritual callings is to encourage people in their relationship with God, because and I'm sure, and I assume with you, just as with me, it is a priority to have that growing relationship with that higher power. And so here's the thing. Now, for me, I really believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I believe that Jesus died for our sins, and that God sent Jesus to the world to die for our sins, and I believe in Jesus as the Lord and Savior, right? But here's the thing. Just because I'm passionate about Jesus, and just because I believe, Jesus is the way, the truth, the life, just because I believe Jesus is the Lord and Savior, doesn't mean that I'm hating on other religions. In fact, so one of my nephews actually decided to convert to Islam. And it was interesting because I guess, he has some friends that are Muslim, and so he was introduced to the Islamic faith through his friends, and he decided to convert to Islam. And so it was an interesting thing, and at first he hesitated to let me know and to let his grandmother know, because he felt as though he wasn't sure how we would respond to it. But here's the thing, is that I look at it and I'm thinking, you know what? Even though I believe that this is a great opportunity for us to use this situation as an example for the world, because I believe, man, there's a lot of tension regarding spirituality and religion. But here's the thing. I believe that I can be passionate about Jesus and at the same time respect and be supportive of my nephew who has chosen a different spiritual belief and is following the Islamic faith, And I believe that this is a great opportunity for me to use this personal family issue as a model for the world. And so would you agree with that? That, hey, like we can support each other and encourage each other in our spirituality without there being tension?
Yeah, so I believe that people need something to believe in. And so no matter what religion that an individual follows, or if they follow no religion at all, I believe that everybody needs something to believe in. It gives you hope. It gives you, in your worst moments, you know that there's, a higher power out there. So I personally, again, consider myself a spiritual person without being a religious individual. And one of the reasons why I stopped being a religious person is because I don't like the division that often comes from religion. You know what I mean? And that's no disrespect to anybody else out there, but I believe that we are all one. And I believe that the belief systems that we come from often comes from the people, our parents, who got it from their parents. And so in what way do we ever have a right to tell someone that their beliefs are wrong when they got it from their parents, or whatever it is that they identify with as well? Similar story, I have a little brother, and when he was in high school, he actually converted to Islam as well. And to be honest with you, I could not have been happier for him. Couldn't have been happier for him. Hey, again, we were raised in the Baptist church. I am not religious at all. He converted to Islam. I couldn't have been happy for him. Do you know why? Because when he made that conversion, he found structure, he found discipline, he found the best version of himself in that moment when he was following those principles. It didn't have to be something that was, for me, because it's not about me.
True.
It's about him and his own personal walk within his life. And we should all just strive for people to find their own happiness, because that's really all that matters.
Yeah. So I mean, would you say though in your life, spirituality is a major priority in your life? Your relationship with God? Would you say it's a major?
I believe that being good to people and doing right by the world is a major piece in it.
What I'm talking about is actually like thinking about God in terms of a person.
Whatever you want to call it. So let's say God, let's say the universe.
Yeah.
That is your.
Yeah, I know. That's right. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like there's a creator. You know what I'm saying? It's like, or even your spiritual practice of like maybe praying or whatever or something. I mean,
yeah, I believe that it is absolutely imperative for us to all take time within ourselves to reflect. And to reflect about what it is that we're feeling, and to reflect about our lives, and to reflect about, the things that have happened in the past, and to prepare ourselves therefore for what's going to happen next, what's going to be the next step. That's how you grow. That's how you develop.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how you make yourself in your best position to be good to the world.
Okay. Awesome. So basically, just encourage, and each person has a different path. Each person has a different path, right? So we just want to encourage people to, seek the path that they believe is the best path for them, and knowing that, if they seek, then that, good things will come, and that if they seek, you will find, right?
Again, everybody's walk is different, and it is far be it for me to attempt to define or to set a path for anyone else. But for me, I believe in us all finding our purpose, and therefore using that purpose to lead to not only happiness for ourselves, but then to be able to share and give that happiness to others as well. That's my own personal path, and my own personal path is the only one I can speak to.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, so we're coming to the end. I got two final questions for you. One is this. So in terms of the mitzvah parties and stuff, right? So I work with a lot of different DJ companies, and what I find is that I believe that three major keys to creating a very successful party is, number one, having a detailed timeline, right? Kind of planning it out, having a vision, setting the vision. Number one, having a detailed timeline. Number two, being flexible with that timeline, having that bag of tricks, as Fresh once said, having that bag of tricks to be able to adapt, you know what I'm saying? Not to be so focused on the timeline that it causes you, to get off track, but to be able to have a clear vision in mind of the outcome, and being able to, in real time, even change things in order to meet that outcome. So number one, detailed outline. Number two, be flexible with the the timeline. And number three, have fun, because when you're really having fun, your energy is contagious. Do you agree with those three overlying principles of creating a great party?
No.
No.
No, I don't. So listen, and I'll tell, because now we're talking about the mitzvah industry. Listen, here's the deal, bro. In our industry, and again, this goes back to a couple of the points that I made earlier. In our industry, way too many MCs, DJs, party motivators, dancers, etc. They come up with it within themselves. They come up with these lists like the one that you just said. And you know what you didn't mention? It's the people, bro. The most important thing that you can ever do at a mitzvah, at any event, the most important thing that you have to remember is that those are people out there. And so, there are a lot of MCs, there are a lot of agencies that come up with 50,000 dance moves, 50,000 two-step dance moves, and they come up with all of these routines and all of
which is valuable, which has value.
They come up with all of these gimmicks, and at times I work with them, and I see them go out and they do all of their dances, and they come up with all of these routines, and they look so cute and lovely. And you know what? Oftentimes the people that are there are watching them. And sometimes they're dancing along with them. But you know what? There's no human connection there.
Gotcha.
We are all living, breathing human beings.
Right.
And so if you're at a mitzvah, if you're at any event, for myself, I host other events and I work in sports as well. If all you're doing is performing and never connecting, you're not making the difference, you're not having the influence on that night that someone such as myself or some of the others of us that really understand what it is that we're doing. We're not, the party is a part of what we're doing. What makes the party is the connection that not only as a master of ceremonies or of a party motivator that you have, but the connection that they feel together. When the people that feel those connections together, that's when they leave and they say, you know what? I've been to good parties this year, but that was different.
Yes, okay.
That was different.
Good point. All right, here's my last question for you. My last question is this.
I want you to really get that last one. I want you to get that in the. I'm giving that one away for free for you right now. You see what I'm saying? Like you can go out there and you can shuck and jive and you can two-step all you want to, and you can think that you threw a good party. You know what? People can get music by listening to their iPod upstairs in their bedroom. They can get that. They can get dance moves from off of the TV. They can get dance moves off of the TV. It's not. That's not.
Those are
what
resources.
Makes the difference.
Those are the tools that we use to make the connection, though. Like if you have a really cool dance routine that kind of connects people.
Sam, I'm going to bring you back to earlier in the conversation. You spoke to the fact in which you are uncomfortable in conversations in which you don't know where they're going.
True.
Cocktail hour is the most important hour of any mitzvah. Not because of the games that we play, not because of the music that's played, but because of the personal connections that we have an opportunity to make with the teens before the music is played, before the dancing occurs. Because when you make those personal connections, when you can touch a person's soul, and again we spoke about legacy, you've got all of this stuff that you want to give to people. You got all of the tools in your tool bag, bro. But if you can't make a connection with people that goes deeper than what you want to give them, then they'll never feel it. If they can't feel it, everything that you got in this book, they'll never take it because you didn't make them feel it to begin with.
How do you do that? Experience.
It's breaking down walls, bro. It's breaking down walls. So, great book. It's called The Alchemist. Okay, Paulo Coelho. Great book. So, the main character. He's with the alchemist and they're in the desert, and the alchemist tells the main character that he has to find life in the desert. There's not much life in the desert. It's all. So he tells him he has to find life in the desert, and I think his name's Diego. But what he does is he has to go out and he ends up searching until he just quieted his mind. He quieted his mind and he let his spirit lead him, and he ended up finding like a tiny lizard. He had to dig in the sand, and he found like a tiny lizard, and that's it. It's personal connection, bro.
Not scripted. No, it's not scripted. It's not planned.
You quiet the mind. You quiet the mind, and you find life. And you connect to it.
And the mindset is, hey, I'm here to serve.
I'm here to serve. And again, I'm not a religious person, but I serve in the industries that I work in. I serve in the mitzvah industry. I serve in the sports industry. I serve because, again, what I'm there to do is I'm not there to do a job. They can hire anybody to do the job. It's not the job that I excel at. It's at the fact that I make connections to people. And then in the connections that I make to people, it allows the job that I'm doing to go from here to all the way up here.
Which goes back to your point about it's not about what you do, but the why. I see. That's awesome.
It's why you do it.
That's awesome. So my final question is this. So regarding teenagers and young adults and really everyone, one of the biggest issues regarding mental health is the struggle regarding our insecurities and our self-image.
Correct.
And so if you had the opportunity to send a message to the world regarding, you know, how you have personally been able to overcome insecurities and how you personally are, you know, working towards maintaining a healthy self-image, because I know no one is perfect. No one has it down perfectly. But how are you, you know, how have you been and how are you in the process of overcoming insecurities and maintaining healthy self-image?
You know what? So I know that my message should be designed to the teens out there, and we'll get to the teens. We'll get to the teens, but this all begins with the parents. Okay, it begins with the parents. For our parents out there, it's imperative that we understand all of the things that our youth are dealing with, especially right now in this social media age, in which you do have the influence of Instagram and video games and just all of these images that are constantly in the minds and in the faces. So as our parents, we have to be cognizant of exactly what it is that, and from an earlier age, we have to monitor what it is that our young people are taking in. And then it's also just as important that we as parents, that we make sure that we are setting the best example possible for them. If we want for our youth to be able to grow up and to grow into all of the things that we want for them too, we have to be certain that we are setting that example, that we're showing them that there's a path. Because far so frequently, the issues that get our young people in trouble is because they don't know how to get to where it is that they want to go, because they've never seen it before. They've never seen it. So for our adults, we have to show them. We have to act. We have to present. We have to be what it is that we want for our youth to see. You know, I'm a graduate of James Madison University. The quote that is synonymous with JMU is "Be the change you want to see in the world," and that's this big, broad scope of things. But to our children, be the example that we want to see in our children. You feel me? So now moving forward to our kids, like you said, I mean, these issues, they're real, they're prevalent in their lives. If I had a message to our teens in specific, I would say that it is important to find that value within none of us are perfect. Not one of us are perfect. So find that value within ourselves, number one. Number two, when we have questions about our own value, be certain that we take a look at who it is that we're following and what it is that we're being influenced by. If you think back to when I think about I was an overweight kid as a child. I wasn't the cool kid in elementary school, wasn't the cool kid in middle school. I was like halfway a cool kid in high school. There's people right now that like you weren't a cool kid, but when I look back, the cool kids were often the ones who were getting in trouble. The cool kids were often the ones who were acting a damn fool. The cool kids were the ones who maybe didn't end up going as far as they could have in life. So as a young person, it's imperative that we know our value, we know where it is that we want to go, we know what it is that we want to do, and we find our path, and we find other people that share that path, and we walk that path together. And as hard as it might be, we kind of block out, because we all know right from wrong, Lance. Haven't you know, we know right from wrong, but sometimes it gets in and it's like up. So we got to put on blinders, bro, and we got to walk that path that we walk and know where it is that we should be getting our influence from, and do our best even in the hard times to walk along that path.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, man. You know? Awesome. Appreciate you, man. Yes. That was great. That was powerful.